Very good morning, students. Welcome to biology classes. Today we are going to see 11th science biology, and we are going to see the next topics of chapter number 7, that is a structural organization in animals. In the previous lecture, we have seen about the uh, basic introduction of this chapter. We have seen the different types of tissues, and we have seen here these are the four types. Amongst them, we have completed with the epithelial tissue and we have completed with the connective tissue, right? We have seen different types of them also, right? We have seen about the simple epithelium as well as compound epithelium. Also, we have seen about the different subdivisions of this type of epithelial cells, right? Next, we have already completed with the second type of tissue, that is the connective tissue. In that also we have seen about the loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue, and specialized connective tissue. We have already seen in the subdivisions of these tissues also, right? So in the previous video we have seen till the blood, right? That means we have completed with the connective tissue. Today we are going to start with the third type of the tissue, and that is a muscle tissue. Now muscle, the word itself, you know that what are muscles, right? So we are going to see that what exactly a muscle is made of, right? So the muscles are made up of cylindrical fibers which are long and arranged in parallel arrays, right? So here the muscles which are made up of cylindrical fibers, that means there will be presence of the fiber like structures, the thread like structures, which are cylindrical in nature. They are comparatively long as well as they are arranged in a parallel way. So those type of tissues are known as muscle tissue. These fibers are called myofibrils, right? This fiber, this cylindrical fibers which are long in nature, this all the fibers are known as myofibrils. And the muscles, the function of the muscles is to do two things. First is the contraction and second is the relaxation. So contraction and relaxation is being carried out by the muscle cells, or we can say the muscle tissues. Now the contraction means what? The shorten, the contraction, in contraction what happens, the muscles get shortened when gets activated, and in the relaxation the lengthen return to its original position. Now here what happens is, you can see the contraction, right? The contraction is the particular muscle gets shortened. That means the length of the muscle, it decreases and it gets shortened when it gets activated. In the relaxation, as the word itself says, that it relaxes, that means it comes back to its original position, right? Here their action moves the body parts. The function of this muscles is to impart the movement to the body parts, that is the limbs, that is the hands and legs, also with the other body parts also, right? Now the muscles are of three types, right? The first is the skeletal muscle, second smooth muscles, and third cardiac muscles, right? So in this muscles, three different types of muscles are observed. Let's see about the first type of muscle, and that is a skeletal muscle. This skeletal muscle are attached to the skeletal bones. Now see, here the bones is the one which is giving the structural frame to your body, right? So now when this skeletal or the skeleton is attached with the muscles which are known as skeletal muscles, so the muscles which are present on the skeletal or the on the bones are said to be the skeletal muscles. Now this skeletal muscles are striated muscles, right? Striated muscles means they do possess two different types of colored bands, that is the light band and a dark band. So when the muscle which is containing two different types of band, that is the light and a dark band, then those type of muscles are known as skeletal muscles, right? So in the skeletal muscle, you have to remember that they are striated muscle and then they are attached to the skeletal bones. The second type of muscles are the smooth muscles. Now these are no striations are observed. That means here only single type of cells are observed, right? Or single type of bands are observed. Here no light and dark bands are present. For this reason, no striations is there. The cell junctions, they hold them together. There will be presence of several cell junctions which are going to link each other, and they do proper functioning, right? Now the function of the smooth muscle is involuntary. That means, say for example, the let's take example of the urinary bladder, right? The urinary bladder, it consists or it have smooth layer, muscle layer in inner side. So when the particular bladder, urinary bladder is feeling, right, it is feeling with the urine. So what happens, once if it is half filled, then it will continuously, it will give messages to the brain, right? So that is the involuntary movements. That means those movements which are not in your control. So the involuntary movements which is being carried out, or it which is being imparted by the muscles, that is through which muscles, the smooth muscles, right? The example is the wall of internal organs, that is the blood vessels, intestine, stomach, right? So all these are having what, the smooth muscles as their inner lining, right? The third type of muscle is the cardiac muscles. And the cardiac muscles, these cardiac muscles are said to be the contractile tissues. Contractile tissues, that means the ones which can undergo the contraction as well as relaxation part here. But main is the contractile tissue. It is said to be contractile tissue because it has to be continuously beat, right? That means the pumping of the, see, cardiac muscles are present only and only on the heart. For this reason, the pumping which is carried out inside the heart, it needs proper tissues and covering of the heart so that it does not burst out, right? That means वो टूट ना जाए, इसीलिए उसके ऊपर हार्ट हार्ट के ऊपर कौन से टाइप के मसल्स प्रेजेंट होंगे, द कार्डियक मसल्स, राइट? नाउ the cell junctions fuse in plasma membrane of cardiac muscle. So here what happens, the cell junction, that means the two different cells, right, the junction between them, they are fused with each other forming one plasma membrane, right? So the plasma membrane of this type of cell muscles or cardiac muscles, what they do is they are fused with each other. The communication junctions at some point allow cells to contract. Now here, when will there will be two different cells of the cardiac muscles, right? What they do is at few points, right, at some points, what they do is they allow to contract themselves, right? And when the contraction takes place, right, so see, the blood is poured into the atriums as well as then ventricles, and then the from the atrium, when it enters inside the ventricle, right, it exerts several pressure and force, right? And for this reason, what happens, it gets contracted. So at some points only it allows what, the contraction. And the last point is one cell active, and then it activates the other cell. So here only one cell is needed to be activated. If the one cell of the cardiac muscle is activated, then the other cells are also activated, right? So this is about the third type of tissue, and that is the muscle tissue. The last and the fourth most type is the neural tissue. In the neural tissue, this tissue, see, neural tissue, the word itself says that it is responsible for the nervous system. That means it is included in the nervous system, right? So here this neural tissue, it is responsible for body's responses, and it control and the control over body to the changing condition. That means whatever conditions are being changed, but here the responses which are being given by the body in accordance with the different types of stimulus, that is been controlled by the neural tissue. So the responses of the body is created by the neural tissue, as well as the controlling of that particular uh, messaging, the sending of the messages, and all the things are coming under the neural tissue, right? So this neuron these neurons, they are excitable cells. That means the cells which are getting excited upon getting the message, right? So when they receive the message, they become activated, and upon activation, they have the ability to pass that particular message to the next neuron, right? So for this reason, the neurons are said to be excitable cells which are responsible for passing the messages from one place to another, or we can say from the site of the injury to the brain, as well as also it carries the responses from the brain to the site of injury, right? Now the neurological cells, what is their function? The function of this neurological cell is to protect and support the neurons, right? So the cells which are coming under the nervous system, this all the cells, what they do is they protect, right? How they protect? So if the injury is been done, then the nerve cells or the neurons are only the ones which are sending the messages to the brain, right? So if the neurons are not working properly, then the sending of the message to the brain is not possible. So it also protects as well as it also support neurons, right? So this neurological cells, they protect as well as support the neurons. Now when a neuron is activated, the electrical disturbance is generated, which moves along its plasma membrane. Now, here what happens when if a neuron is receiving a message at that time, what happens? It gets activated. But how it gets activated? It forms a electrical disturbance. So, a electrical impulse is generated, and and for this reason, what happens? It moves along its plasma membrane. So there will be a presence of plasma membrane on the nerve cell, right? And which is going to do what? Pass from the plasma membrane. Now, as the neuron receives the electrical disturbance, it causes activation or inhibition of neuron. So here what happens? As the neuron receives this electrical signals or electrical impulses, right? It gets it activation, or sometimes also once if it is sending the message, then that particular neuron after sending the message becomes inactivated, right? So here up till here what it is about the neural tissue. So we have completed half of the chapter, and we have seen about the different types of tissues, right? We have started with the introductory part. We have seen about the histology, what are tissues, right? Then we have seen the types of tissue. In this we have seen about this four different types of tissue in detail. First we saw about the epithelial tissue. We saw in that the two types, that is the simple as well as the compound. After that we have seen the subdivision of the simple epithelium, that is squamous, cuboidal and columnar. Same way we have already also seen for the compound epithelium, right? And in that we have seen about the different types, right? Then we have also seen about the ciliated epithelium and the glandular epithelium, right? And then we have seen different examples also. In the compound epithelium, we have seen about the three types of junctions, that is the tight junction, adhering junction and the gap junction. So till here it was about the epithelial cells. The second we saw about was the connective tissue. This connective tissue, right, we saw about, we saw the function, the location, as well as we also seen about the types of this tissue, and that is a loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue and specialized connective tissue. Also we saw about the different subdivision of them inside it, right? So we completed till then, and today we completed about the third type of tissue, that is the muscle tissue, and the last one, that is the neural tissue. So here we complete the basic introduction along with the description of the different types of tissues which are present in your body. From the next lecture we will start about the uh, three different types of organisms in detail. The first is the earthworm, the second is the cockroach, and the third one is the frog, right? So we are going to see them each in detail. We are going to see the different types of morphology as well as the anatomy of these three of the animals, right? So I hope you are very clear with today's topic, and I hope to see you again. Thank you.